Have you ever wondered why some people cheer you on, while secretly hoping you fail? What if their smiles were masks, and their compliments were quietly laced with envy? To truly know someone's heart, don't watch how they treat you when you're struggling, watch how they behave when you're winning. 1. Observe actions, not just words. Don't listen to what they say, watch what they do. Have you ever trusted someone simply because of the way they spoke? Maybe they praised you, offered their support, or even promised to be by your side. But as time passed, their actions told a very different story. The truth is, words are cheap, words are easy, but actions? Actions demand authenticity. Stoic philosophy, one of the most powerful schools of thought in history, teaches us something simple yet profound. Judge others not by their words, but by what they consistently do. The Stoics believed that behavior, especially under pressure or when no one is watching, reveals the essence of one's character far more than anything spoken aloud. Let's take a deeper look. Why words can be deceiving. Words are easily manipulated. A person can smile and say all the right things while secretly harboring envy, resentment, or ill intentions. They can charm a room, make promises, and craft an image of kindness and support, but their real intentions often lurk beneath the surface, hidden behind rehearsed lines and socially acceptable niceties. This is especially true in environments like the workplace or competitive social circles. A coworker may say, "Congratulations, you really deserve that promotion," while in reality, they feel threatened or jealous. That same person might later go behind your back and criticize your efforts or subtly sabotage your reputation. So what do you trust? Their words or their behavior? Marcus Aurelius, the great Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, put it best. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. That's the Stoic way: less talk, more action. The power of observation. Think about this. How do people behave when there's nothing to gain? How do they act when they believe no one is watching? How do they treat those who can do nothing for them? These are the questions that expose true character. Imagine a friend who always tells you, "I've got your back," but when you're in a tough spot, financially, emotionally, or even just needing a ride, they're nowhere to be found. That's a disconnect between words and actions, and that disconnect is a red flag. Now consider another friend who may not speak much, but who shows up, who helps without asking, who supports you quietly but consistently. That's someone whose actions align with integrity. The Stoics would tell you, that's the person worth trusting. Inconsistencies reveal truth. The most revealing sign of envy or falsehood often lies in behavioral inconsistency. Someone might speak kindly in public but behave coldly in private. They may express support for your goals but withdraw their energy when you start succeeding. They may compliment you to your face and criticize you the moment you leave the room. This two-faced behavior isn't just hypocrisy, it's often rooted in jealousy, fear, and insecurity. To identify this, train yourself to become a student of patterns. One incident might be a mistake, but if someone consistently says one thing and does another, take it seriously. Their actions are painting a far more honest picture than their mouth ever could. This doesn't mean you become paranoid or judgmental. It means you become more attuned, more aware. You observe not from a place of cynicism, but from a place of wisdom. A Stoic reflection exercise. The Stoics believed in turning philosophy inward. It's not just about judging others, but also examining ourselves. Ask yourself, do my actions reflect what I claim to believe? Do I offer help only when it's convenient or visible to others? Do I follow through on promises, or do I offer empty reassurances? It's easy to see deception in others, but the hardest and most rewarding work is in recognizing it within ourselves and correcting it. By living authentically, aligning our actions with our values, we build not only personal integrity but also the ability to recognize when others are not doing the same. Practical ways to apply this insight. So how can you begin to apply this principle of watch actions, not words, in everyday life? Here are a few steps. Stay patient. Don't rush to judge someone based on charm or flattery. Let time reveal their patterns. Watch for consistency. Do they act with the same values across situations, or only when it's convenient? Notice how they treat others, especially those with no status or influence. That's often where true character shows up. Match their words with follow-through. When someone says, "I'll help you," see if they do. When they say, "You can trust me," see if their behavior earns that trust. Don't ignore gut feelings. If someone's actions and words feel misaligned, there's usually a reason. In closing, there's an old saying, actions speak louder than words. But in Stoicism, it goes even deeper. Actions define the person. They are the living evidence of one's soul, one's philosophy, and one's inner truth. So the next time you hear someone praise you, support you, or make a promise, pause. Observe. Watch their behavior in the days that follow. Are they walking the talk? Because in a world full of noise, the Stoic path reminds us, the quiet truth of action is louder than the loudest lie. 2. Evaluate their response to your success. A friend to your face, a rival in their heart. Watch how they react when you win. Success doesn't just change your life, it reveals the lives of those around you. When you rise, not everyone will rise with you. Some will cheer, genuinely thrilled for your growth. Others will smile, say all the right words, but behind that thin veil of congratulations, something colder lingers, something resentful. Jealousy. Stoic philosophy teaches us to detach from the opinions of others, but it also reminds us to observe with clarity, to see things as they truly are. And one of the clearest windows into someone's character is this: how do they respond when you succeed? The truth hidden in reactions. Think back to a time when you achieved something meaningful, a promotion, a personal milestone, an award, or even a relationship breakthrough. Do you remember the faces of those around you? The words they said? Now ask yourself, did they really seem happy for you? You see, people don't always say what they mean, but their reactions, especially subtle ones, often speak volumes. A delayed smile, a forced, "that's great," a joke that cuts a little too close, or a compliment followed by an awkward silence. These moments often reveal more than the most elaborate speeches. A truly supportive person will mirror your joy. Their enthusiasm will match yours. They won't feel threatened because your success doesn't dim their light, it inspires them. But someone envious? They'll feel exposed by your growth. Your rise reminds them of their stagnation. And that discomfort, no matter how well hidden, tends to seep out. Stoicism. Detachment without naivety. The Stoics didn't advise becoming suspicious of everyone, but they did teach discernment. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If someone does wrong, it is because they are mistaken about what is good." Envy is a form of ignorance. It arises from a belief that life is a zero-sum game, that your gain is someone else's loss. A person who congratulates you but secretly resents you is not evil. They are simply misaligned with reason and virtue. Your role, as a practitioner of Stoic wisdom, is not to fight them, but to understand them and to protect your peace. The mask of fake support. Let's be honest, some people wear their support like a costume. They'll say, "You deserve it," but their tone lacks warmth. "Wow, you're doing so well." But they never ask how you got there. "I'm so happy for you." But they avoid eye contact and change the subject. These aren't just random behaviors. They're signs, and often, they come with passive-aggressive undertones. Backhanded compliments like, "You got lucky," or "It's about time." Subtle comparisons, "You're good, but did you see what Sarah did?" Undermining comments, "Let's see how long that lasts." These are not the words of someone cheering for you. They are the whispers of insecurity dressed as politeness. Spotting envy with emotional intelligence. To recognize envy, you don't need to accuse anyone. You don't need to overanalyze. You simply need to observe. Here are signs to look out for. Lack of genuine enthusiasm. Their tone is flat. Their words sound rehearsed. The emotion doesn't match the occasion. Subtle undermining. They downplay your effort. They call your success luck. They redirect praise elsewhere. Sudden distance. Once close, they now seem distant. They stop calling. They stop showing up. Competitive energy. They start comparing themselves to you more often. Or worse, they start copying you. These signs may appear minor, but over time, patterns emerge, and those patterns can protect you from keeping toxic people too close to your victories. Celebrate with those who climb with you. There's a Stoic principle that says we should align ourselves with those who are virtuous and wise. True friends, by Stoic standards, are those who don't measure your success against their ego. They see your progress as part of a shared journey, each individual walking their own path, but cheering others along the way. When you win, these people ask you questions with curiosity, not jealousy. Celebrate loudly and support you quietly. Never feel the need to one-up you. Make your victory feel like a shared joy. These are the people who belong in your circle. These are the people who strengthen your peace rather than disrupt it. How to respond to jealousy wisely. So what do you do when you realize someone resents your success? Do you confront them? Not necessarily. Do you distance yourself? Possibly. The Stoic way is to remain calm, clear, and composed. You don't need to seek revenge, nor do you need to cling to people who are threatened by your growth. Your success is not for validation, it's for your purpose. If someone cannot handle your light, let them stay in the shade, but never dim yourself to make them comfortable. Instead, redirect your focus. Continue building. Stay humble. Grow quietly, and let results speak. Your peace matters more than their approval. A quiet test for true support. Here's a simple exercise. The next time something good happens to you, share it with different people in your life and observe their response, not just what they say, but how they say it. Who smiles with their eyes? Who lifts you higher? Who changes the subject? Who turns quiet? That moment will tell you everything you need to know. Closing reflection. Envy is often silent, but its silence speaks volumes. Stoicism teaches us that the reactions of others are outside our control, but how we respond to them is entirely up to us. So, as you move forward in life, achieving, growing, transforming, keep your eyes open and your soul guarded. Not everyone who claps for you is a fan, and not every smile is sincere. But don't let that make you bitter. Let it make you wiser. Success is a mirror. It doesn't just show you who you are, it shows you who everyone else truly is. 3. Notice how they treat people who can't benefit them. Character isn't how you treat the powerful, it's how you treat the powerless. In life, it's easy to be kind to those who can offer us something, a job opportunity, a connection, a favor, or status. But the true test of someone's character lies in how they treat people who have absolutely nothing to give in return. This insight is at the heart of Stoic wisdom. The Stoics taught us that virtue is self-contained, it isn't selective. And it doesn't depend on what you stand to gain. A truly good person acts with dignity and compassion regardless of who's in front of them. The CEO or the janitor, the waiter or the president. So the next time you're unsure about someone's sincerity, don't just watch how they treat you. Watch how they treat the people they don't need. Respect without expectation. A person of integrity doesn't change their behavior depending on who's watching. They don't put on a mask for superiors and remove it for subordinates. Their respect is not transactional, it's habitual. When someone genuinely respects others, that respect flows freely to the cashier, the delivery driver, the intern. It's not performative, it's not strategic, it's authentic. But deceitful or envious individuals operate differently. They're strategic with their kindness. They turn it on and off like a switch depending on who's useful at the moment. When they speak to someone who holds no value to them, their tone changes, their manners fade, their patience vanishes. These small cracks in their behavior often reveal the truth they try to hide. The power dynamics of courtesy. In workplaces and social environments, these patterns become glaringly clear. Think about someone at your job who always seems polite and professional when the boss is around, but rude or dismissive to the cleaning staff. They laugh at the manager's jokes, but scoff at the receptionist's concerns. Their behavior is coded in ambition, not principle. This isn't just bad etiquette. It's a sign of insecurity, of someone who only values power, not people. Someone who sees others not as humans, but as tools. Now contrast that with someone who treats everyone with the same warmth and dignity. They hold the door open for anyone. They listen patiently, whether it's the CEO or a delivery worker. They acknowledge people, not titles. That's the person worth trusting. That's the person living in alignment with virtue. A Stoic lens on human value. Stoic philosophers like Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius believed that all people, regardless of social status or profession, possess the same capacity for virtue. No one is inherently superior or inferior. As Epictetus wrote, "Remember that you are an actor in a play the playwright chooses." We each have roles, some grand, some modest, but the worth of the soul is not measured by status. It's measured by how we carry ourselves within that role. So when you see someone treating a waiter with condescension, or ignoring the elderly because they slow things down, remember, that's a reflection of their internal values, not just their bad manners. Fake kindness is conditional. Deceptive people often reserve their best behavior for people who can elevate them. Their kindness is a currency, spent only where there's return. They flatter their boss, charm their peers, and ignore everyone else. But the moment you no longer serve their ambition, watch how fast they change. Maybe they once complimented your work, constantly asked for your opinion, or included you in their plans. But now that your influence has shifted, they grow cold, distant, or even critical. Their kindness wasn't about you. It was about what they could gain from you. A Stoic sees through this. A Stoic doesn't judge someone by their charisma, but by their consistency. A simple test of character. If you want to truly understand someone, do this. Watch how they treat the people society often overlooks. See if they say, "Thank you," to the barista. Notice if they acknowledge the elderly crossing the street. Listen to how they speak about those who are beneath them. These aren't just small observations. They're windows into a person's soul. Because if someone can't show decency to those who can't offer them anything, they are not a decent person at all, no matter how polished their image may appear. Check yourself too. This principle isn't just for spotting others. It's for self-reflection. Ask yourself, do I treat everyone with equal respect? Do I value someone less because of their job, their clothes, or their status? Am I only kind when it's convenient? The Stoic path is not about being perfect. It's about becoming more self-aware, one decision at a time. And few choices are more revealing than how we treat the ones who cannot return the favor. In closing, in a world obsessed with influence, image, and advantage, Stoicism calls us back to something deeper: character. Let others chase power. Let them pretend kindness for gain. You, watch closely. Look for the moments when there's nothing to be gained and everything to be revealed. That's when true nature shows. And when you find people who treat the janitor the same as the CEO, hold on to them. Because those are the rare souls who live not by status, but by principle. 4. Distinguish between praise and flattery. Sincere praise builds. Flattery blinds. Not all compliments are created equal. Some come from the heart, grounded in admiration and respect. Others, though wrapped in honeyed words, hide something darker underneath: jealousy, manipulation, or an attempt to deceive. That's why one of the most powerful skills you can develop is this: learning to tell the difference between genuine praise and insincere flattery. The Stoics believed that the opinions of others, whether praise or blame, should never control us, but they also knew that the ability to recognize insincerity is essential, especially if we want to guard our peace, protect our relationships, and remain grounded in who we are. The hidden danger of flattery. Genuine praise is a gift. It uplifts, encourages, and often highlights the truth about your efforts and character. It's clear, specific, and meaningful. It makes you feel seen, not just celebrated. But flattery? Flattery is different. It exaggerates. It feels too polished, too frequent, too convenient. It's often vague and over the top. And most importantly, it usually benefits the speaker more than the listener. A person who flatters is not trying to strengthen your spirit. They're trying to get something from you. Their compliments are not for your benefit, they're a tactic. They may want your trust, your support, your protection, or even your downfall. In fact, many envious or deceitful individuals use flattery as a disguise. They mask their hidden resentment or ambition with sweet words designed to soften your defenses. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic emperor, once wrote, "It is not the things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them." And one of the most dangerous misjudgments is to confuse manipulation for admiration. How to spot the difference? So how do you tell sincere praise apart from flattery? Let's look at some signs. 1. Praise is specific. Flattery is vague. Real compliments highlight something tangible. "I really admire how you handled that tough situation yesterday. It showed strength. Your consistency over the last few months has been really inspiring." Flattery, on the other hand, sounds like, "You're always amazing. You're the best at everything." It feels nice, but says nothing real. 2. Praise comes when earned. Flattery comes when convenient. Genuine praise appears naturally after a job well done or a meaningful act. Flattery shows up when someone wants something, from your attention to your favor. Ever noticed how some people suddenly start complimenting you more right before they ask for help, support, or access to your network? That's not coincidence, it's strategy. 3. Praise uplifts. Flattery manipulates. Sincere words make you feel appreciated, but also keep you grounded. They highlight your real strengths and motivate you. Flattery, on the other hand, can intoxicate you. It distracts you. It inflates your ego just enough to lower your guard, and that's when people can take advantage of you. The role of envy in flattery. It might sound strange, but envy and flattery often go hand in hand. Why would someone who's jealous flatter you? Because they feel powerless in comparison. And flattery becomes a way to either get close to you or subtly sabotage you. By boosting your ego, they hope to mislead you, make you overconfident, or gain control over your emotions. This is especially common in competitive environments, offices, friend groups, or even family dynamics. Someone might overpraise you publicly, only to criticize or question you behind closed doors. It's a game, and the prize is your trust. A Stoic response to flattery. The Stoics taught that we should never place our self-worth in the hands of others. Whether people praise you or insult you, your value must remain anchored in your actions, your character, and your virtue. When someone compliments you, pause, ask yourself, is this rooted in truth? Do their actions match their words? What is the context in which this praise is being given? And if it feels off, don't ignore that instinct. At the same time, remain humble. Don't reject every compliment out of suspicion, but accept praise with clarity, not craving. Let it warm you, not define you. As Marcus Aurelius advised, receive without pride, let go without attachment. What flattery reveals about the speaker. Remember, how someone gives praise says more about them than it does about you. A person who flatters excessively may struggle with their own insecurities. They might be trying to climb a social ladder or hide their own lack of authenticity. Or they might be attempting to deceive and disarm. Whatever the motive, the insight is this: be careful with people who praise you too much and know you too little. A final reflection. Praise is a mirror when clean. It reflects truth, but when coated with flattery, it distorts everything you see, including yourself. Don't be seduced by excessive admiration. Seek relationships rooted in honesty, where feedback is real, not rehearsed, where compliments are earned, not engineered. Let your sense of worth come from your principles, not from the opinions of others. Because while flattery may sound sweet, it often comes from a bitter heart. 5. Monitor consistency in behavior. Who they are when no one's watching, that's who they really are. In a world full of masks and shifting roles, consistency is one of the most reliable signs of sincerity. While anyone can behave admirably in public or under pressure to impress, it's what they do when there's nothing to gain, when there's no audience, that reveals their true character. This is especially important when trying to recognize jealousy or deception. A person who is sincere acts from principle. Their behavior stays steady across time, place, and circumstance. But a jealous or insincere person? Their behavior fluctuates. They adapt their attitude based on benefit, opportunity, or self-interest. And it's in those fluctuations that the truth slips out. Why consistency matters. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." This is the essence of consistency. It's about integrity, a harmony between thoughts, words, and actions. Sincere people don't need to remember what mask they wore yesterday because they weren't wearing one. They speak with the same tone in private and in public. They treat people the same regardless of status or power. They hold onto their values, even when doing so brings no personal reward. On the other hand, a deceitful or envious person has no such foundation. Their behavior shifts like sand in the wind. Around some people, they're warm and supportive. Around others, cold and distant. Sometimes they're overly kind, other times dismissive. The pattern? They change depending on who is watching and what they can gain. The chameleon effect of jealousy. Jealousy is a shapeshifter. It rarely shows itself openly. Instead, it adapts. A jealous person might praise you in one setting, then criticize you in another. They might act like a friend when you're successful publicly, but reveal resentment in more private or subtle moments. They'll celebrate your victories when it's socially expected, but listen closely, and you might catch the bitterness beneath their words. You might notice they're your biggest fan when you're in the spotlight, but go quiet when you're struggling. They show up when others are watching, but vanish when the applause ends. Their compliments sound sincere, but are always followed by subtle comparisons or underhanded comments. These inconsistencies are not accidents. They are tactics, ways to navigate social spaces while keeping their envy hidden. But over time, the cracks become harder to ignore. How to spot behavioral inconsistency. If you're unsure about someone's intentions, observe them over time and across situations. Don't rely on just one interaction. Patterns are what reveal character. Here are some signs to watch for. 1. Changing personality based on audience. Are they kind to you when you're alone but dismissive in a group? Do they speak differently when around people of higher status? Sincere people are steady. They don't shapeshift to impress. 2. Support that comes and goes. Do they encourage you only when it's easy or popular to do so? A true friend is present even when there's no spotlight. 3. Words that don't match actions. Do they promise support but never follow through? Do they say one thing and do the opposite? Jealousy thrives in contradiction. 4. Inconsistent reactions to your success or struggles. Some people only engage with you when you're down, because your pain makes them feel superior. Others only support you when you're up, because your shine gives them something to reflect. Both are conditional. Both are signs of hidden envy. The Stoic standard: harmony between word and deed. Stoic philosophy teaches that virtue is shown not through occasional greatness, but through daily alignment between what we think, say, and do. Epictetus said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." The same applies to others. Don't trust declarations of loyalty, integrity, or honesty. Trust behavior, repeated behavior, the kind that endures across stress, time, and temptation. Ask yourself, does this person act the same way when it's inconvenient? Do they live their values consistently, or only perform them for recognition? If the answer is no, be cautious. Inconsistency is often the shadow of something darker. When you see the signs, what next? You don't need to confront or accuse someone the moment you spot inconsistency. In fact, Stoicism teaches detachment, to see things clearly without being emotionally rattled. Instead, quietly adjust your expectations. Reassess how much of your trust or energy you give. Maintain your own consistency, even if others failed to. This isn't about judging others, it's about protecting your peace. About surrounding yourself with people who are solid and steady, not unstable or strategic. Reflecting inward. Are you consistent? Before turning your lens outward, always pause and look inward. Do you behave the same when no one is watching? Do your actions match your beliefs, even when no one is keeping score? Consistency is not perfection. It's commitment. It's the choice to show up honestly, again and again, regardless of the outcome. The more consistent you are, the easier it becomes to see when others are not. Final thought. Consistency is the quiet language of integrity. It doesn't need applause, attention, or reward. It simply is. And in a world where people often change with the weather, those who remain steady become lighthouses in the fog. So when you want to know if someone is genuine, watch what they do when it costs them something to be kind. When no one is watching. When you're not of use. That's where truth lives. That's where envy hides. And that's where you'll find clarity. 6. Observe how they react to criticism. The wise grow from criticism. The jealous seek revenge from it. Criticism, it's one of life's greatest teachers. When delivered with honesty and accepted with humility, it sharpens character, strengthens self-awareness, and fuels growth. But not everyone views criticism through this lens. Some take feedback as an opportunity. Others see it as an attack. This is where the Stoics drew a powerful line between wisdom and ego. They believed that how a person responds to criticism reveals more about their inner life than almost anything else. If you want to uncover hidden jealousy, resentment, or deceit, watch how someone reacts when their flaws are exposed. A mirror or a threat? For a wise person, criticism is a mirror. It reflects something they might not have seen in themselves. And though it may sting at first, they don't break the mirror, they examine the reflection. They welcome the chance to improve. But for someone envious, insecure, or deceitful, criticism feels like a threat to their fragile ego. They don't examine the reflection, they shatter the mirror. Their reaction might be subtle, a forced smile, a dismissive shrug, or a passive-aggressive remark. Or it might be more intense, anger, denial, lashing out, or even retaliating against the one who dared to speak the truth. When someone can't handle being corrected, it often means they're protecting a carefully constructed image, one that can't afford cracks. And jealousy is usually hiding behind that wall. What the Stoics believed about criticism. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If someone can prove me wrong, and show me my mistake in any thought or action, I shall gladly change. I seek the truth, which never harmed anyone." This is the heart of Stoic humility. A Stoic doesn't fear being wrong, they fear staying wrong. They understand that every piece of feedback, no matter how uncomfortable, is a stepping stone toward becoming better. Jealous and deceitful people, however, don't seek truth, they seek control, admiration, and status, and anything that challenges that, especially criticism, feels like an attack. Signs of a negative reaction to criticism. So how do you recognize the difference between a wise, grounded person and one who's hiding behind false pride. Here are some behaviors to watch for when someone is criticized. 1. Defensiveness. Instead of listening, they interrupt. They justify every action. They twist the narrative to make themselves the victim. 2. Anger or irritation. They react emotionally, even explosively. A simple comment becomes a battlefield. 3. Retaliation. They may try to get back at the critic, either through gossip, sarcasm, or undermining their reputation. Their goal? To shift focus away from their flaws and onto someone else's. 4. Silent resentment. Sometimes, they won't say much, but you'll feel the cold shift. A sudden distance, a drop in warmth. They might not argue, but their bitterness quietly builds. These are all red flags. And while one reaction doesn't define a person, repeated patterns certainly do. A real-life example. Imagine two leaders receiving feedback from their team. Leader A listens calmly. They ask clarifying questions, thank the team for their honesty, and take action to improve. Leader B, on the other hand, becomes cold and dismissive. They question the credibility of the feedback. Later, they reduce the hours of the person who spoke up, or criticize them in front of others. Which leader would you trust? Which one would you follow? The first leader embodies wisdom. The second reveals insecurity and ego, often driven by jealousy or fear of losing control. Why jealous people can't handle criticism. Envious individuals tend to link their self-worth to how they are perceived. Criticism, no matter how gentle, punctures that illusion. They're not trying to grow, they're trying to maintain an image. And when someone threatens that image, they don't self-reflect, they self-defend. Criticism unmasks them, and rather than deal with what's behind the mask, they'd rather silence the critic. This is where the Stoic approach becomes essential. We don't engage in their drama. We simply observe. Use criticism as a compass. Want to find the sincere people in your life? Give them gentle, constructive criticism, then watch what happens. Do they listen? Do they thank you, even if it's uncomfortable? Do they reflect and respond thoughtfully? Or do they change the subject? Shut down? Shift the blame? True sincerity is revealed not when we are praised, but when we are corrected. Reflect on yourself too. Before we look too closely at others, the Stoics always remind us to examine ourselves. Ask yourself, how do I respond to criticism? Do I welcome it as a chance to grow, or resist it out of pride? Do I thank those who are honest with me, or avoid them afterward? Your reaction to criticism reveals your relationship with truth. The more you embrace it, the more clearly you'll see others. Closing thought. Criticism is not the enemy, it's the ally of those who seek wisdom. But to the jealous, it feels like poison. So if you want to know someone's true nature, don't just watch them in success, watch them in correction. That's when masks fall. That's when character rises or collapses. And that's when you'll know who truly stands on the foundation of growth, and who's hiding behind a fragile shell of pride. 7. Pay attention to unintentional comparisons. Comparison may sound innocent, but sometimes it's a whisper of envy. Some of the most dangerous signs of jealousy don't come through arguments, insults, or direct opposition. They arrive subtly, in passing remarks, casual comments, or offhand comparisons that seem harmless on the surface. But if you listen closely, those comparisons can reveal volumes about how someone truly feels about you. When someone constantly compares you to others, especially in ways that subtly undermine your worth, they're not just making observations. They may be trying to chip away at your confidence, frame you as less than, and elevate themselves or someone else in your mind. This behavior is a classic tactic of envious or insecure individuals, and if you're not paying attention, it can quietly influence how you see yourself. The comparison trap, a hidden power move. Imagine this. You've just completed a big project. You're proud of it. You share it with a colleague or friend. Instead of celebrating with you, they respond with, "That's good, but I think Mark's version had more depth." Not bad, but didn't Sarah already do something like this a few months ago? Yeah, you're improving. Reminds me of how John used to be before he really leveled up. It sounds casual. It might even come off as well-meaning. But what's the underlying message? You're not quite enough. These statements rarely encourage. Instead, they plant seeds of doubt. And often, that's the point. The Stoic view. Your worth is not measured by others. Stoic philosophy teaches us that comparing ourselves to others is a dangerous distraction. As Epictetus said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. In other words, focus on your own path, not on others' approval or comparison. But when someone brings comparisons into your space, especially when you didn't ask for them, they may be trying to pull you out of alignment with yourself. That's why it's so important to recognize this tactic early and guard your peace. Why people use subtle comparisons. Unintentional, or rather seemingly unintentional, comparisons can stem from 1. Jealousy. They feel threatened by your growth and use comparisons to bring you back down. 2. Insecurity. They don't feel good enough, so they deflect attention onto others to regain control. 3. Control. By shifting your focus onto someone else, they can manipulate how you feel about your progress, forcing you into a constant need for validation or approval. What these comparisons sound like. Here are some common phrases that signal subtle comparison. You're almost as good as someone else. This reminds me of how another person used to do it, but they added more flair. That's nice, but have you seen how name does it? Not bad. It's got a similar vibe to insert name, though theirs felt more polished. These remarks are often framed as compliments, but they come wrapped in a competitive edge that says, "You're second place. You're not quite there yet. Someone else is still ahead of you." How to respond with strength. So, how should you handle it? First, don't react emotionally. Stoicism teaches us to remain centered, not swayed by every opinion or external judgment. As Marcus Aurelius put it, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. When someone compares you to others, pause. Ask yourself, is this meant to help me grow? Or is it meant to make me doubt myself? If it's the latter, don't internalize it. You don't have to argue or defend yourself. Simply redirect the conversation or disengage with quiet confidence. Your worth is not on trial. Flip the lens. Who's making the comparison, and why? It's also helpful to consider who is making the comparison and what their possible motive might be. Are they consistently unsupportive? Do they seem uncomfortable with your achievements? Do they have a pattern of competing with you rather than celebrating you? If the answer is yes, this comparison isn't random, it's a sign of something deeper. True friends don't compare, they celebrate. A person who respects and values you doesn't feel the need to stack you up against others. They focus on your journey, your progress, your unique strength. They say things like, "I'm proud of how far you've come. That was impressive, keep going. You inspire me to improve myself." They don't place you in competition with others. They lift you up as you are. A Stoic self-reflection. Before we close, remember, Stoicism is never just about watching others. It's also about examining ourselves. Ask yourself, do I unintentionally compare my friends or peers? Do I use comparisons to elevate myself or diminish others? Am I celebrating others authentically or through the lens of competition? If so, gently correct your course. Growth doesn't require rivalry. Your journey is enough. Closing thought. In a world addicted to comparison, choose clarity over competition. When someone starts drawing lines between you and others, recognize it for what it is, a subtle attempt to influence your self-image. Don't let those quiet jabs of envy change how you see your progress. Stay grounded, stay focused, celebrate your wins without apology. And most of all, surround yourself with those who see your light. Not as a threat, but as a reason to shine brighter too. 8. Pay attention to how they react to their own failures. Failure reveals character more than success ever will. Anyone can appear composed, confident, and kind when things are going their way. But the true test of someone's character comes not when they win, but when they lose. How a person handles their own failure can reveal whether they are sincere and strong, or deceitful and fragile. Some people embrace failure with humility. They accept responsibility, learn from their mistakes, and grow stronger. Others do the opposite. They deflect blame, hide their flaws, and make excuses to protect their image. They're not focused on growth. They're focused on self-preservation. If you want to see someone's true self, watch what happens when they fall. Failure, the great revealer. Failure doesn't lie. It strips away pretense and exposes what a person is really made of. A sincere person sees failure as part of the journey. They acknowledge where they went wrong. They reflect, and they adapt. They don't feel the need to hide their flaws, because they value truth more than appearances. But the deceitful or envious person, they treat failure like a personal insult. Instead of looking inward, they look outward. They find someone, or something, else to blame. And if they can't find a reason, they invent one. This avoidance isn't just about pride, It's often about protecting a false version of themselves. One that's perfect, invulnerable, untouchable. The Stoic mindset toward failure. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, taught us this. When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to learn. Failure, from the Stoic perspective, is not a threat to your identity. It's a tool, a teacher, a moment to reset, not to retreat. That's why the Stoics saw no shame in falling, as long as you used that fall to climb back up wiser than before. But those who are consumed by ego, pride, or insecurity don't want to learn, they want to maintain control. Spotting negative reactions to failure. So how can you recognize when someone is reacting to failure in an unhealthy or deceptive way? Here are some telltale signs. 1. Blaming others. Instead of accepting their role in the outcome, they blame circumstances, coworkers, competitors, or even you. Nothing is ever their fault. 2. Making excuses. Rather than admit they didn't prepare, they say things like, "The timing was wrong," or, "That wasn't even my best effort." They protect their ego by pretending they could have succeeded if they really tried. 3. Hiding the mistake. They downplay, deny, or completely cover up what went wrong. They may change the story or avoid talking about it altogether to save face. 4. Attacking others who succeed. Sometimes, they project their disappointment by criticizing those who did well. "He only won because he got lucky," or "She probably cheated." All these responses are warning signs, not just of insecurity, but of deeper issues like envy, dishonesty, and a lack of emotional maturity. Sincere people own their failures. Now compare that to someone who reacts with honesty and accountability. They say things like, "That didn't go the way I hoped, and I take full responsibility. Here's what I learned, and what I'll do differently next time." Failure hurts, but I know it's part of growth. These responses don't come from weakness. They come from strength, true strength. Because only someone confident in who they are can face failure without fear. Why it matters. You may wonder, why is this such an important sign of deception or jealousy? Because people who can't accept failure often cannot accept others' success either. They see life as a competition, and if they're not winning, they feel humiliated. These individuals are more likely to tear others down to feel taller, spread negativity after their own setbacks, sabotage others to avoid facing their own inadequacy. By observing how someone handles their own downfall, you gain insight into how they'll treat you when you rise, and how they'll behave if you outgrow them. How to respond stoically. If you encounter someone who reacts poorly to failure, don't argue with them. Don't try to force them to see what they're avoiding. Simply observe, adjust your expectations, distance yourself, if needed. And most importantly, reflect on how you respond to your own failures. Do you take accountability? Or do you scramble for someone to blame? Do you see failure as an ending or a lesson? Your answer determines not just your growth, but your peace. Final reflection. Failure doesn't destroy character, it reveals it. So if you want to truly know someone, don't just watch them win. Watch them fall. See how they carry themselves when nothing goes according to plan. When applause turns to silence. When they must face themselves without a spotlight. The strong will stand up, reflect, and try again, wiser. The weak will hide, lie, and lash out. And now that you know what to look for, you'll know which one stands before you. 9. Evaluate how they share personal information. The way someone speaks reveals more than just their story, it reveals their intentions. Words have weight. They can inspire, manipulate, deceive, or heal. And in daily life, one of the easiest ways to glimpse into someone's true character is to observe how they talk about themselves, and how they talk about others. Jealous and deceitful individuals often have a very specific pattern when it comes to sharing personal information. They frequently exaggerate their own achievements, distort facts, or leak other people's secrets under the guise of casual conversation. But none of this is random. It's a subtle strategy, designed to manipulate how others see them, while simultaneously controlling how others see you. Let's break this down. The storytelling trap. When someone constantly speaks about their personal victories, you might think they're just confident or passionate, but if you listen carefully, the pattern begins to shift. They don't just talk about what they've achieved. They inflate. They dramatize. They twist ordinary moments into epic accomplishments. A group project becomes something I carried on my own. A minor compliment becomes, everyone said I was the best. A failed attempt is reshaped as an innovative move misunderstood by others. This kind of storytelling isn't just for entertainment, it's for image control. They want to appear more powerful, more intelligent, more desirable than they truly are. And often, this need to exaggerate stems from deep insecurity and envy. Because if they can't be better in reality, they'll try to be better through illusion. Stoic wisdom. Words reflect the soul. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When someone constantly paints themselves as flawless, invincible, or superior, it says less about who they truly are, and more about who they fear they are not. A sincere person shares stories with humility. They don't need to impress because they're grounded in truth. They're not afraid to admit flaws or reflect on failures, because growth matters more to them than reputation. But a jealous or manipulative person will use stories like tools or weapons. The other side, talking about others. Now let's talk about the second half of this behavior, how they talk about people other than themselves. A major red flag is when someone frequently reveals private conversations, embellished gossip, or details about others that were never theirs to share. At first, it might sound like trust. I'm only telling you because I trust you. Or concern. I don't want to judge, but here's what I heard about her. But underneath these confessions is often a quiet motive to shape your perception. To elevate themselves by lowering someone else. To get close to you by appearing transparent while creating doubt, suspicion, or judgment toward someone else. And worst of all, if they gossip to you, they will eventually gossip about you. What it sounds like in real life. Let's look at a few examples. I heard John got that promotion because he's close with the manager. Not because of merit. She said she was struggling last week, but she always acts like she has it together. I wouldn't normally share this, but just between us, he really messed things up. Every time someone shares a secret that wasn't theirs to tell, you're learning something, not about the person being talked about, but about the speaker. How to recognize the pattern. Here are 3 behavioral patterns to watch out for. 1. Inflated self-narratives. They consistently talk themselves up, even in situations that don't call for it. They crave admiration, and will twist facts to get it. 2. Selective truth-telling. They share stories that always place them as the hero, victim, or expert, but never as flawed, wrong, or learning. 3. Uninvited gossip. They regularly reveal personal information about others, especially if that information paints those people in a negative light. If you see these patterns together, proceed with caution. What they share may sound interesting, but it's often engineered to manipulate trust and perception. A Stoic approach to personal information. From a Stoic standpoint, truth, discretion, and self-awareness are signs of virtue. A Stoic doesn't overshare to gain favor. They speak with intention, not indulgence. Ask yourself, does this person speak from a place of wisdom, or from a need to control how others see them? Do they protect the dignity of others, or casually expose it? Are they consistent in their truth, or do they shift their stories depending on who's listening? Your answers will reveal whether you're dealing with sincerity or someone wearing a mask. How should you respond? When you spot this kind of manipulative storytelling, don't confront impulsively. Don't feed the gossip. Most importantly, don't share your own personal truths with them. If they misuse other people's stories, they'll eventually misuse yours too. Instead, set boundaries, remain polite, but guarded, acknowledge their words without engaging deeply, and over time, choose distance if needed. Final reflection. The way people speak about themselves and others is a mirror, not of reality, but of values. A person who fabricates success or exposes secrets is revealing their internal chaos, not their external strength. So listen carefully, not just to the story being told, but to the motive behind it. Because while words can deceive the ear, intentions always echo in the silence between the lines. 10. Listen to your intuition. Sometimes your gut knows what your mind isn't ready to accept. Have you ever been around someone who seemed perfectly nice, but for some reason, you just couldn't relax around them? They smiled, they spoke kindly, they acted friendly, yet deep down, you felt something was off. You couldn't quite explain it, but your body picked up what your logic couldn't. That feeling? That quiet tension? That's your intuition speaking. And in a world where jealousy and deception often wear the mask of charm, your intuition can be your greatest ally. Intuition. the wisdom beneath words. Intuition isn't magic. It's not superstition. It's the product of thousands of subconscious observations, tone of voice, body language, timing, micro-expressions, and subtle inconsistencies. Your brain gathers all this data and sends it to your body before your mind can rationalize it. The Stoics valued clarity of mind and internal stillness. And while they didn't speak of intuition the way modern psychology does, they taught something very similar. Pay attention to your inner impressions. Don't ignore what your soul is telling you. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts, so guard it. Sometimes, the soul warns you before your reason catches up. That feeling of discomfort, don't ignore it. It may start as a subtle feeling. You walk away from a conversation feeling drained. You notice that after interacting with a particular person, your energy is lower. You feel anxious, uneasy, or irritated, but you don't know why. This isn't paranoia. It isn't oversensitivity. It may be your intuition trying to protect you. Because underneath someone's words, smiles, or helpfulness, there might be envy. There might be manipulation. They might not be attacking you outright, but they're competing, judging, or trying to assert quiet dominance over you. And your instincts, honed by evolution, can detect what your intellect tries to excuse. How to recognize these internal signals? Here are a few examples of how your intuition might show up. You feel like you have to perform or prove yourself more around this person. You sense their compliments are hollow or calculated. They often invade your space emotionally, and you leave the interaction second-guessing yourself. Your body feels tense, your shoulders tighten, your stomach churns, or your mind stays stuck on something they said. These may seem like small things, but together, they point to something bigger. Your intuition is a quiet alarm bell. It doesn't scream, it whispers, and the wiser you are, the more you learn to hear it. Why jealous people trigger our instincts? Jealousy is a subtle form of hostility. It often hides behind a smile or a friendly gesture, but it carries an emotional vibration that our bodies can detect. Why? Because even if the jealous person says, "I'm happy for you," their energy says, "I wish that were me." Even if they praise you, their eyes carry a flicker of resentment. Even if they stand beside you, they secretly want to be ahead of you. And this emotional dissonance between words and intent is exactly what your intuition is tuned to pick up. The Stoic practice of inner listening. Stoicism teaches us to cultivate self-awareness, not just through logic, but through silence, reflection, presence. While the Stoics didn't promote emotional reactivity, they understood that not all knowledge comes from external observation. Some comes from within. So when you feel unsettled around someone, don't dismiss it. Reflect on it. Ask yourself, why do I feel uncomfortable in their presence? What is my body telling me that my mind hasn't yet verbalized? Is there a pattern to how I feel before, during, and after seeing them? You don't need to confront. You don't need to accuse. But you do need to pay attention. Trust, but verify. Just as you should never blindly believe everything someone says, you should also avoid ignoring the warnings inside you. That doesn't mean you act on every gut feeling without question. It means you give those feelings the respect they deserve. Observe over time. Do your instincts prove true? Do you spot patterns of subtle manipulation, passive aggression, or comparison? Do you find yourself shrinking in their presence, constantly managing their emotions while ignoring your own? These are signs, real ones. How to protect yourself without losing your peace. Once your intuition tells you something's wrong, you have choices. Create emotional distance. You don't have to cut them off, but pull back. Don't share your vulnerabilities or dreams with them. Stop seeking validation. Don't try to win over people who make your soul uneasy. Your peace is not a debate. Stay grounded in truth. Be kind, be calm, be clear, but never ignore the signs just because the surface looks polite. Remember, Stoicism isn't about hardening yourself. It's about mastering your responses. And your first defense is often that quiet whisper within. Final reflection. You don't need evidence to trust your intuition. You don't need proof to honor discomfort. You don't need a reason to protect your peace. In a world where envy and deception often wear pleasant faces, your instincts will sense what your eyes cannot see. Don't silence that voice. Don't wait for betrayal to validate it. Listen, watch, trust. Because sometimes the clearest wisdom isn't spoken or written, it's felt. In a world filled with noise, charm, and masks, the greatest power you can develop is clarity, the ability to see people for who they truly are. Not everyone who smiles at you is your friend. Not everyone who claps is cheering for you. And not everyone who stands beside you wants to see you rise. But now, you're no longer blind. You've learned to observe actions over words, to see through false praise, to recognize the quiet jealousy behind fake support. And most importantly, to trust yourself when something feels off. These 10 powerful insights are not just tools to protect your peace, they are shields to guard your energy, your purpose, and your future. They empower you to walk boldly, with discernment in your eyes and calm in your heart. So if this message spoke to you, if even one of these truths helped you see more clearly, don't keep it to yourself. Right finger like this video to let us know it resonated. Loudspeaker share it with someone who needs this wisdom. Bell and subscribe to the channel for more Stoic strategies and life-shifting lessons. Because this journey is just beginning. Stay grounded. Stay wise. And remember, the most powerful people are not the loudest, but the clearest.